Says, I can see no route where the current military action does anything but put at risk the hope of peace and security for anyone in the region.
The sheer numbers are still a challenge to Keir Starmer's authority. What Labour MPs vote for may not change much on the battlefield.
Why are Labour MPs defying Keir Starmer in droves? Frontbench resignations, public protests and 56 rebels might be the headlines, but there's a bigger story here. This video will reveal how this rebellion exposes the ideological battle threatening to divide Labour from within.
I agree with them.
You agree with them? Are you going to rebel?
I do. I'll be very clear. When these...
It's not every day that 56 MPs stand against their leader, especially on an issue as globally sensitive as Gaza. So why now? The answer lies in a clash of principles and pragmatism that's been simmering within Labour for months. At the centre of it all is Keir Starmer's carefully calibrated position, a call for humanitarian pauses in the conflict rather than a full ceasefire.
Recent action is appalling and, in my view, counterproductive and intolerable, and we have strongly opposed.
This stance mirrors that of the US and EU, aligning Labour with Western policy and reinforcing its bid to appear as a responsible government in waiting. But for a significant part of Starmer's own party, this verges on moral compromise. These MPs, 56 of them ignoring the whip, insist that an immediate ceasefire is the only ethical path forward. Their arguments are rooted in mounting civilian casualties and the devastation in Gaza.
My conscience tells me that I must call for a ceasefire today, for a halt to this dreadful destruction and conflict where far too many have already died.
Coupled with the sheer intensity of pressure from their constituents. While Starmer leans on pragmatism, citing diplomatic realism and international alliances, rebels within Labour have framed this as a moral failure. The divide sharpened after Jess Phillips and Afzal Khan chose to resign in protest, sacrificing their frontbench roles in favour of principle.
We need a full and immediate ceasefire now. My constituents have demanded this, and I will not refuse them.
A resignation.
And a big name, Jess Phillips, probably the best name, the most high profile of all these resignations.
Phillips voiced unwavering opposition to the party line, her position bolstered by escalating public dissent visible in protests across major UK cities. This fissure isn't entirely new. Labour has a long history of grappling with foreign policy discord. Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, marked by staunchly leftist international stances, saw the party argue over everything from Trident to interventions abroad. Starmer's approach aims to erase these ideological battles, rebranding Labour as a cohesive, centrist force. Yet by sidelining the party's left wing, he's arguably planted the seeds for this rebellion. The Gaza ceasefire vote didn't emerge from nowhere. It struck at fault lines intentionally widened by Starmer's broader ambitions.
It's my head and my heart, which has felt as if it were breaking over the last 4 weeks with the horror of the situation in Israel and Palestine.
That's the real story. This wasn't purely about Gaza. The ceasefire vote became a symbol of something larger, as if the party's internal struggle finally found its breaking point. But here's the question. How deep do these cracks run? And could Labour's internal opposition to Starmer escalate into a wider, longer-term challenge?
But let me be absolutely clear. We need to get back to a ceasefire. We need the hostages who've been held for a very long time.
The rebellion has thrown a harsh spotlight on Labour's unity, or rather, the lack of it. In the immediate aftermath of the vote, the party faced a wave of resignations and sackings. 10 frontbenchers either stepped down or were dismissed for defying the whip. Among them were some of Starmer's staunch supporters, making the dissent not only ideologically significant, but also politically risky.
Says, I can see no route where the current military action does anything but put at risk the hope of peace and security for anyone in the region.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
With 56 MPs rejecting the party line and local protests emboldening grassroots activists, Labour's leadership now faces the challenge of holding an increasingly fragmented coalition together. Maintaining unity in this climate is no small task. The dissatisfaction has fanned out beyond Parliament. With 23 Labour councillors resigning in protest, their actions aren't just symbolic, they underscore a broader dissatisfaction among the party's base. This rebellion highlights a dynamic Starmer may have underestimated. Local councillors and grassroots supporters often serve as bellwethers for public opinion, and the discontent rippling through these ranks can't be ignored. For a man who built his leadership on presenting competence and control, this open defiance is a direct hit to his authority. When compared to previous leaders, Starmer's response reveals crucial differences in style and strategy. Tony Blair, often cited as Labour's most electorally successful leader, faced his fair share of rebellion, particularly over Iraq, but Blair's dominance within the party often quelled dissent before it spiralled. Jeremy Corbyn, contrastingly, dealt with constant challenges from within his own MPs, but leaned heavily on grassroots support to maintain legitimacy. Starmer, lacking Blair's grip on his MPs and Corbyn's grassroots appeal, finds himself treading a precarious middle line. His attempts to project a united and disciplined party now appear strained, creating openings for both internal critics and external opponents. The stakes go beyond Labour's internal politics. Public perception could tip the balance in an election. If voters see Labour as fractured, it risks undermining Starmer's central pitch of competent governance. Meanwhile, the SNP and Conservatives have pounced on the crisis, framing Labour as chaotic and inconsistent.
Around 56 Labour MPs in total voting for the SNP amendment calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza.
These are very dark days, and Gaza is a stain on the soul of humanity, and it is a further shame.
Whether this rebellion becomes a passing storm or a sign of deeper instability remains to be seen. But what is clear is this: the image of unity Labour has worked hard to rebuild is now in serious jeopardy. The Gaza ceasefire vote forced Labour into a moment of reckoning, exposing a raw conflict at the heart of the party's identity. On one side stands Starmer's pragmatism, designed to position Labour as a centrist, electable force. On the other, deepening frustration among MPs and grassroots activists who view moral clarity as non-negotiable.
The sheer numbers are still a challenge to Keir Starmer's authority. What Labour MPs vote for may not change much on the battlefield.
Yeah, look, my view is that I would urge the government to rethink, to have a look at this again.
Do you think they will?
This tension has been brewing since Starmer took leadership, but the sheer scale of dissent, 56 MPs breaking ranks, has shattered the image of unity he's carefully built. As Joseph Willits puts it, Starmer has opened himself up to future challenges over his moral authority. Will Labour reconcile or fracture further?